It's the Jay and Thomas Podcast, an hour of commentary on today's top stories, current events, or just life in general. And here are your hosts, Jay and Thomas Darden.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jay and Thomas Podcast. I hope you're all doing really well out there. Thanks very much again to our special guest who was on the last episode. Hope you all enjoyed that. Travel and Food S.A. Canal, thank you very much for coming on. Do appreciate it. And Dad, much like Elvis left the building a little bit early on us, Dad, we'll start out as we normally do. Then you can kind of give us the skinny on how you ejected from the latest podcast, and then we can go from there. So, to the top of the hour and the man of the hour, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for asking. And last week was a neighborhood snafu. The power went out in the complete neighborhood. So I don't know if the transformer blew or what happened, but it was total darkness. Because, you know, everything we have is electric. Electrica. Yeah, we're Electrica people.
Is it Electrica or Electrico?
It's Electrica. And I think. So that's what happened. That's why I just went away, just boom, and I was gone because the power went completely out. Yeah. I didn't get to say see you. But yeah, that's what happened.
You were there in spirit, and we most certainly appreciate it and whatnot. So
I did put a comment in the comment section on the podcast that the electricity went out in my neighborhood, and I will see you next week, which
there
is
it is.
Today.
It's right
Yay.
now. Right now.
That's right. Yeah. So, now.
Yeah. Cue in the echo sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that is wild, but hey, you're back now. Hopefully the electricity and everything down there in the in good old Playas, Ecuador, maintains function correctly, at least while we have our
at least for an hour, right?
Our power hour there. So
yeah. That's and it's funny because that happened on Wednesday, and then again we were standing out there outside waiting on a ride on Saturday night about 6:30, 6:45, and it's already dark down here. The sun goes down 6:15, 6:30, and it comes up 6:15, 6:30. And the guy was Canadian guy lives across the street. We were talking, and he goes, "Look," and it looked like sparklers coming from the transformer. And he said, "That baby's glowing."
Yeah, man.
So, and I was like, "Holy smoke, man!" So, sure enough, about 10:30 that night, Saturday night, the power went out again, and still out of it. They came strolling out here about 9:00 Monday morning.
Well, just let them stroll on in, you know. Geez.
Yeah. You could tell that it looked like a contractor with the
right.
electric company came in his pickup truck and his ladder, and he skinnied up the ladder and flipped a couple of things around, and everything was mojoing along. So life was good.
Well, there you go.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Things are back now. We're live and in living color, as they would say.
That's right.
So we had a couple of topics here today that we wanted to talk about just a little bit here. Try to not rustle too many feathers, but we have some interesting ones. So do you want to pop off on the first one there?
No, wait a minute. I have a question for you before we start.
Oh, sure.
This is so Governor of New York has resigned. See that?
No.
Andrew Cuomo has resigned.
Okay.
But it's not effective for 14 days. My question is, if you resign, why does it have to? I understand a 2-week notice.
Yeah, it's like you ever been in a job, man? You don't just walk out.
Yeah. I know about jobs.
Yeah. Who is it? Job, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. But my question is, did he give a notice to get a compensation package, or did he say, "I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I'm giving you a 2-week notice." That's basically, I think, what he's saying.
Right.
But they said he doesn't own any other property and has no home to go to. He doesn't own another home somewhere else, like most politicians that have a couple of houses and an apartment. he doesn't have anywhere to go. And they're like, we don't know what he's going to do, but he's out of here, out of the governor's mansion in 2 weeks. Right. But why 2 weeks? Get out now.
Well, there's something called a transition period, especially folks who were in power or in
the lieutenant governor takes over when he leaves.
Perfect.
And
well,
she's going to be just
over in 2 weeks.
She's going to be just as bad as he is, only she's probably not pinching guys on the butt, as far as I know. But like he was pinching girls on the butt. But
hey, he could have been pinching guys too. Who knows, man? It's
hey, yeah, guys, girls, hey, God bless. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So I just wondered why it had to be 2 weeks from now.
All right, most likely.
Somebody can look that up. Look that up and put it in our comment section.
Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe if you know why the 2 weeks.
You like the way I segued into that?
Yeah, sliding right in, just like into her DMs.
Smash that like button. Smash that like button. Yeah.
That's it. Tickle the bell or pinch the bell like Cuomo or whatever.
Yeah. That's right. Squeeze it.
Yeah. Squeeze the bell.
Yeah, don't be like Slow Joe and sniff the hair. Well, never mind. Let's move on. Yeah.
So most likely there is a procedure, if that makes sense, where they probably have to give some amount of time unless it's an emergency, and then they can say, okay, I'm going to leave after this transition period, because for one, it would look very bad on anybody if they just, all right, see ya, and then they just left. Right? You just left. That would look awful. Right, because it would seem
suspicious, awful suspicious. Is that what you're saying?
Right,
yeah.
And so,
since he has a couple of federal investigations looming over his head, we'll see how that works. Is that Mountain Dew? Oh God! Oh my gosh!
Dude.
I haven't had one of those since April.
I was going to say, but you had the opportunity. No. Pat got you some. Like, you've had the opportunity to consume the Lord's nectar, but you just didn't do it. Now I wouldn't do it either.
I couldn't get to it in time.
If it was normal Mountain Dew,
somebody else drank it. I couldn't get to it in time.
You siesta, you lose. I don't know what lose is in Spanish.
Figure
that out.
That's what happened. That's exactly right. That's what happened.
You nap and you lose. Well, there's got to be some form of standardized, you're going to take off. Okay, we need a transition period. We need a plan. And then they got to get the plan in place, right? Because you said the lieutenant governor is going to take over, but that just didn't happen overnight. A perfect example is if somebody left my work, we would want them to stay as long as possible, so we could get the new folks into position and trained up a little bit or whatever.
You want to use me? Is that what it is? You want to use me?
Yeah, 100%.
No, I want to leave.
Okay, well, you can leave when you want, but I'm going to squeeze blood from the stone, right? Like,
right. Okay. I was just curious why that he would put that date out there so far out or something, but anyway.
Well, one thing to look at too, you said they have nowhere to go, right? Other than the governor's mansion. Something that, pray tell, I don't know where your sources are. I can assume where I'm kind of thinking where they're going to be coming from. But why would an ex-governor, especially one who was, I don't want to say as controversial, but as in the spotlight as this person, why would they want you to know any of that information? If they had an extra house or two houses or whatever.
Public record.
Public record.
Real estate's public record.
It very well could be, but also the sources that you're looking into just might not know that information or might not.
Well, that's true. You're right. So, I just threw that out there because it's just a crazy world.
Provocateur, good sir. Provocateur.
Yes, yes, that is correct.
Definitely need a shirt that says provocateur in Spanish, so then everybody in Ecuador can start to be like, there he is, the provocateur.
That's right.
But,
so,
yeah, tell us about this this headline that you read here recently that I just was kind of blown away by.
Little background. I've worked at 2 state prisons as a guard and medium security. and one county jail as a deputy. Okay. I saw this headline and I went out of my mind when I saw this. Female inmate pregnant after being forced to share prison with biological men claiming to be transgender. What?
Goodness gracious.
California, anywhere else, I mean, it had to be there. California women's prison. California law that allows men to identify as women and get sent to a women's prison, even if they were in prison for violence against women.
Yeah.
Where in the hell do these people come from? Where did they come from?
Well, so let's look
The
at
officials that wait a minute, the officials that do this, okay? And go ahead.
No,
I'm almost at a loss for words. Now, personal experience, prison, medium security prison in Nashville, okay? Had a guy there that had long blonde hair and he had breast. And when I saw, and he was a slender guy, probably weighed maybe 120, 125 pounds. And this was, oh gosh, 20 years ago. Okay. Had breast, long hair, pretty face, okay body. He was in there with the guys all the time being messed with and harassed and all that kind of stuff. But couldn't put him with the women because he's got a working tool. So put him in with the guys. I don't know how else to say it.
a working tool.
A working tool that he was born with. And this was before this got so heavy into the transgender and the LGBT and all that kind of stuff. And he was always being messed with. I mean, I felt sorry for the guy. And they called him a shim, a she and a him. And walking away from you, he looked like a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his long hair, but way past his shoulders, was neat and clean,
right,
and had that little switch when he walked. And the guys.
You seem to know a lot about this person. Like you were staring at him too.
No, when you're on a pod, when you're working a pod in the prison, you're assigned. You go in for roll call, and they say, okay, you're going to go to pod A or pod B or pod C. You're going to pod J, which was referred to as the jungle, and pod H, which was referred to as hotel.
Sure.
Okay, so you would go to a pod and you'd be on duty with these people for eight hours. You would be living, you would be at the desk, making your rounds, doing cell searches.
Right.
You interacted with these people, probably 100 or 120 people, for 8 hours. So naturally, you're going to stop and talk to people and stuff,
Naturally, your eyes are going to wander. And there is a whole bunch of swinging tools around there. And when
what are you going to do? What are you going to do when the guy comes up and puts him on the desk and says, how's your night going, or how's your day going, or something? It's like, get off my desk, man.
I'm gonna say, if YouTube did not algorithm the hell out of us, I would cut in, hello, is it me you're looking for? And that'd be totally fine, man. Lionel Richie would be right there with me. We would just be like, do you see this? And he'd be like, yeah, man, that ain't bad. And I'm like, it's not too bad. That's me, because I look at all these ugly mofos in here. So it's a scenario that case is wild, right, from start to finish. But the story here
I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, well, so what's cool is like you actually have the experience and the background Like, you did that job, right? You were in there, you guarded the inmates. Because did you do men and women? You've done both sides?
Yes.
Right. And so you know how it is in there, and it's literally, welcome to the jungle, right? Like, cut in.
Yes. That's why they called it that. That's why they
Sure.
called it the jungle, because it was, it's almost like from the rafters and stuff. But what's funny is people didn't know that this facility was in the L shape. It had a long hall and a short hall. The long hall was all men, and the short hall was all women. So you had men and women housed under the same roof.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you might be assigned to the men's hall or the women's hall. It didn't matter where you were all.
Gotcha.
And let me tell you something. These people don't have anything to do watch you the whole freaking 8 hours.
Well, yeah.
I mean, all they have to do is cause you misery, lie about you, watch you, you scratch your ass, rub your eye, whatever you do, somebody's always watching.
Well, because
always
you're
watching.
only,
that's all they gotta do.
Well, to that
source to the outside world.
Exactly, right? You're the only source, the plug that they have to the outside. So, I mean, you'd be the most interesting chimp in the cage, man. Like, it's like, oh, that one just came in from the outside. Like,
that's correct.
They have information, or they have.
And when they were ugly to me, I would say, you know what? I'm going to go home and drink a beer and eat a hamburger, and I'm going to get loving, and you'll still be here tomorrow with none of the above.
Actually, they're going to.
And they would say, man, that's cold.
Actually,
that's really cold.
I would say, I'm going to go drink some toilet wine while I blast my guy with no teeth, my cellmate. So it's like, you don't have it better than me. And and of course no, never mind. We won't go there. But nowadays in prison, hell, they're sneaking in cell phones and drugs and all. I mean, not that they weren't doing that before, but they definitely have like several other amenities, right? Hell, now you have certain prisons that have programs that they take care of pets. Yeah,
well, I understand.
I'll go be in jail if I can go have a dog and a cat and shit and just chill out with all my other friends who have dogs and cats and stuff. It's like,
One of the prisons I worked at had what was called campus placement, where they would let nonviolent criminals out to go to school.
Right.
So they would walk to the technical school that was about 300 yards away. Now you're in prison. They're paying for your clothes, your books, your tuition, your dental care, your medical care.
Sure.
They're feeding you, housing you, and you could stay in the prison and get a 2-year degree, technical school, and they would even help you find a job when you got out.
Wow.
That was state. That was the state of Tennessee prison. The other prison was a privately owned prison. And for profit.
You got to watch out for those for-profit, privately owned prisons, man, because that stuff's scary.
There was 2 guys fighting over a hot dog one day, and the guy said, "You're supposed to break." One of the inmates said, "You're supposed to break that up." And I said, "They're fighting over a hot dog. You want me to break them up so you can stab me in the back with a shank? They'll get tired in a minute." I'm not going to break up a fight over a hot dog, man. Give me a break.
Don't let Thomas watch your inmates or your kids, because
no, you're in a prison. I put my back against that wall, and when they got done fighting, I rolled in there with assistants, and we took them off to segregation because they were stupid fighting over a hot dog. So
that's a fun story. It was one of the tests that they have going into one of the prisons where they're like, all right, get Joe Blow out of the chair. Share that for us if you don't mind. I love that story.
What do you mean?
Okay, so as they're doing some training for you all, they're like, how are you going to get this very large, very rotund inmate out of this chair? And then you're like, Officer Dart needs assistance. Just instantaneously. No nothing, no fighting, no talking, no anything.
Well, no, I'm not going to fight with the guy. They also, during our training, put us in a cell and threw in a can of mace with the light out, and you had to find your way to the door. Or tear gas, not mace, but tear gas.
Tear gas. I was like,
tear gas.
What?
Yeah. because when I was at one prison, I was part of the SORT team, which is a special offensive response team. And like if the guy didn't want to come out of the cell,
Yeah.
you suited up and went in and got him.
Well, there you go.
So
to that
anyway.
end, the headline here is pretty wild, right? It's very provocative, just like we said, provocateur, right? That's kind of the point here. But it's a scenario that it's always going to come into play. Okay, you're going to have folks who are going to say they're in prison, man or woman. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're going to potentially be assaulted, but you did something, air quotes, there's innocent people in prison. We're not saying that there aren't. But there are people in prison, so some are going to say, I don't have any sympathy for them, right?
All sex penal system is considered non-consensual,
right?
Yes.
It's all considered assault, like sexual assault, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So they put in new pregnancy resources in the medical clinics in California in these prisons. Okay, the new resources are an admission by the officials that women should expect to be raped when housed in the prison with the men, where all sex is considered non-consensual by default within the system. The options include prenatal care, abortion, and adoption. This is freaking insane. But you think as a guy, I'm spending 20 years in prison. If I can say I'm transgender and I get to go to the women's prison, then 20 years won't be so bad.
Oh, be like, well, could you imagine? It's like, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
That's correct. And that's what, and the women are out of their minds. They're like,
I bet.
You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. The law went into effect in January, and the LA Times reported that since then, around 300 male prisoners filed a request to transfer. Now, they've only transferred 20 so far. But they quoted one inmate, and everybody goes, well, they're all liars and they're all, Does anyone care that we're being forced to house with a 6'2", 250 plus pound men with penises that are here for brutally raping women?
No, I don't think they do. But that's kind of the point, right?
Right. Then she said, does anybody care? And it's like, we've been warned by officials in this prison that more are coming with worse charges.
Well, something that is kind of, at least it's where my mind goes with this, is that's just kind of how it seems like it's going to start going eventually, where they just have prisons based on location. It's not going to matter what gender you are. They're just going to say you're in prison. Screw it. And it'll be something akin to like a movie, right? Or a video game. An example here is there was one of my favorite games of all time is called Batman Arkham City. Well, Arkham is the overall major prison in Gotham City where Batman does his stuff. And in Arkham City, it's just a gigantic, like, closed off, kind of like Escape from New York scenario, right? Where there's a big wall around it, right? And then everyone in there, it's just chaos. It's anarchy and chaos all the time. So that, to me, seems to be where that's going to eventually lead to, where it's like you're just in prison, men, women, children, whatever. And then you'll start to have folks who just get born in prison, right? And then that's going to be their story, and it's going to be a nightmare for everybody, right? Because you're going to have folks where it's like, well, what's your story? Well, I've, went through the adoption system or whatever, and they literally started their life in prison, popping out, going to foster care, and then you're just having this terrible cycle that's just going to continue forever, and it's just, it's jaw-dropping, really. To think about where, like, the implications of where this can go and how far people are willing to be PC.
That's out of control, man. when you got a guy in the women's group shower with half a dozen women in there showering, and he claims to be a woman, that bullshit. Really?
Cue in the
That was the stupidest thing I heard.
well, kind of
one of the stupidest things I heard until I realized that it came from California.
Well,
so I'll leave it at that. It's a
scenario like things of that ilk can come from really anywhere, but it's something that the women inside of those women's prisons, a lot of people aren't going to hear them out, right? Because they're women in women's prison. So, it's.
Well, I understand.
It's a tough road to hoe because.
What? Yeah. That's just having been there and seen the facilities. I used to tell the women in there, this ain't no slumber party. Mm-hmm. The lights are going out. You're no slumber party. So, but anyway, that's retarded, man. That's retarded. But it's a way for a guy to enjoy his 10 to 15, I guess.
I mean, if that's the case, then I would almost assuredly, once they start to figure out, wait a minute, unless you don't swing that way, which is totally fine, 2021, more power to you. But it's I'm going to go into women's prison because I'm not going to be messed with by the women, right? Because I'm bigger than them, instantaneously. And it's a scenario where, that's a woman right there, and she can't escape, and I'm a felon, and it's I'm a predator, and it's what is happening here? So it seems as though everybody would be vying for that. The men, or the air quotes, the predators in the male prisons are going to say, yeah, I'm transgender, whatever.
Well, a thing that was interesting when I worked at the county jail, it was an adult pretrial detention center. Okay, so they haven't been before the judge. And in the prison, you've been sentenced, and how many, you're doing 365, going to be doing it 10 times.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah, you're counting the days or whatever because you know what's up. Yeah.
Right. Pretrial adult detention center, county jail. Well, they wonder why they had issues. Now, having come from a prison background, prisoners don't mess with you. There's easy time and there's hard time, and everybody wants to do easy time. So, when I worked at the county jail, it was these people haven't been before the judge, so they don't know what their sentence is. But I said, yeah, you got the guy whose paperwork was screwed up for not paying his child support in here, and you got him in the same cell with the guy that killed 3 people.
Yeah.
And you wonder why you got issues. I mean, are you serious? Well, I resigned because of my medical problem, my lymphoma.
Right.
My doctor said that jail's so nasty that you'll die from, something in the jail, an infection, because your, immune system is so low that you got to get out of there. So I was like, okay, I had to resign. Talking to the captain one day, I ran into him somewhere. I was talking to the captain, and he said, yeah, I can't keep any guards because the people that are in there, they realize they're already in jail. They've got charges. So them jumping on a guard, they think they can because they've already got charges.
Yeah.
I said, you know how to fix that, right? He said, how you fix it? I said, you tune one of them up, because word in a jail or in a prison travels like wildfire.
Oh, sure.
I mean wildfire, because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they got to do. So I said, all you got to do is tune up one of them to let them know that you're not going to take that kind of stuff from them. And once that word gets out, those people won't act up like that anymore. Well, we can't do that. Yeah, you can. Well, they've got rights. No, they lost their rights when you put the handcuffs on.
Okay, so
I've been locked up. I've been arrested, and I've been locked up.
Okay.
So
okay, perfect.
But he said, well, there's too many cameras, not in the cell, and they had solid doors with windows and flaps on them. I said, you take a couple of guys in the cell, and you have one guy watch the door, And once you tune them up and it gets around that you're not going to tolerate that stuff, you won't have that problem. Well, I said, then you're going to continue to have that problem.
Okay, perfect. That is, as my buddy would say, chef's kiss. Okay.
Thank you.
No, it's not good for you. And the reason why I say this is because you ever heard the expression?
Do you need to stop recording or something?
No, man, no.
Hey, man, I didn't admit to beating anybody up.
No, most certainly not. But I haven't got down there yet, so we'll have that live in living color as well. But that is perfect, and the reason being is this: you were talking about kicking somebody's ass who did something wrong, right? And you said yourself, it's on tape. We got it here, folks. It's a hot take. They lost their rights when they went into the prison. Yes. The problem is, well, then why do you give a beep about the women getting raped if you will, in the same breath, say that tune somebody up? They lost their rights. They don't have any rights. So do you understand? Like that don't work. So that one story on top of your that's
okay. That's inmate on inmate. I'm talking about. I was there when a guard got assaulted at the county jail, and a guy and he was probably 10 years older than I was. And when I worked there, I was in my mid 50s or late 50s, and he got his arm broken. Yeah. In a scuffle with a guy. There's no call for that. But I don't know all the details, and I'm speaking out of turn. But when you've got someone that pushes their stones in a wheelbarrow and thinks you can assault an officer, that's like on the streets. The lady in Chicago shot and killed the police officer. Shot and killed, and her partner was shot in the head. He still got a bullet lodged in his brain this past weekend at a traffic stop. A freaking traffic stop. Who do these people think they are? Who do they think they are that they can do that? You cannot assault authority. Okay, jump on that one.
If I recall correctly, you can't assault authority. I do remember not so long ago, right around the beginning of January, we had several people who are, in some people's eyes, patriots. In others' eyes, whatever you want to call them. That seemed to be, air quotes, assaulting authority to the highest degree.
Oh, that was a setup. Don't even go down that road. You talking about January 6th? That was a setup.
I am speaking in generalities.
That was a setup. That's all I'll say. They set that up.
Q Forrest Gump.
That's all I have to say about that.
That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, perfect. So that is, oh man, you just pow, pow, pow. They're just coming left and right, man. Hey, I must have eaten my Wheaties today or been really, really pissed off about driving home and it taking an hour. But to that end, we'll segue into a fun little anecdote here, or a fun little note about myself. I get to work from home again. So all you beautiful viewers out there, all 18 subscribers, mwah, 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 mwah. Oh man.
When does that start?
Yeah, so that starts Monday. The greatest thing in the world is I'll be home for one day.
You get to work from your office for one day.
And then
you'll be flying down here.
Right. But then when I come back, oh baby,
we're looking forward to seeing you.
It's gonna be nuts, man. Like coming down there, I can't wait. So it'll be super cool. And talking about, I'm gonna actually bring my work laptop down there. Knock on proverbial wood, in case they get stupid and they're like something else happens or something weird goes on. I can still function normally, right?
Well, you can use this one.
Right. Well, no. My work laptop has information on it that I need to be able to function on the system. But I do plan on bringing that down just in case. It's not planning anything. It's more like making sure we don't have we're keeping the gringo down here. And I'll be like, all right, I'm going to the cabana. I got my laptop. I'm going to, work from there.
There you go.
And pay for like $500 monitors versus the $200 ones here. So,
okay.
But,
there you go.
Oh man, I cannot wait. and it's a scenario that the powers that be are like, we're going to have it on a volunteer basis. Guess how many volunteers that there are out of like 40 people
To do what?
to work in the office? Because now it's voluntary. Is that a 3 or a 0?
No, that's a 0.
1. There is 1 who wants to volunteer to come back into the office to do what? What do they want to do? They want to interact with people.
They want to work by themselves. Sounds like.
Well,
they'll be the only one in the office.
No, they told us and admitted on camera to everybody in a town hall that they have depression, which sorry about their luck, because I understand that's very difficult, and I do feel for people who have depression, but they're not going about it the right way, because they're now utilizing their work associates, especially telling us that
Right.
they need to interact with folks to feel happy. As most of you all viewers out there, especially you, Father, people don't interact with me if they want to be happy. They interact with me if they want a smack in the face verbally or mentally. So
I'm happy every Wednesday night.
it's like
I get to interact with you.
He's just saying that because of the podcast. It's all good. So to that end,
He's gonna cut that part out.
yeah. So to that, it's like, it's nuts because she's going to go back into the office and there's not going to be anybody there. And it's not good for her because they're going to realize, at least I think, I'm assuming, which we know what that does. I am assuming that they're going to get into the office and be like, oh, wait, nobody's here. Okay, I'm going to go back home. Because at home is their family. Like, they have children and a husband and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, I would want to be around my family all the time. And
maybe they want to get away from them.
Maybe, but
I don't know.
Point,
I'm just throwing that out.
Well,
maybe they consider it a break.
Maybe. But I know this person doesn't live very close. And it's expensive.
How
very time consuming.
And I'm asking this, I don't know. I know you probably don't know the answer, but I wonder how long the lease is that your company has on that building, that they have to have that whole floor of that building.
I would say
for how long, and I bet it's expensive if nobody's in the building every day.
It is. I would say it's anywhere from 5 to 10 years. Because I don't think they would go too crazy, especially if the expansion, like, of course, every business's plan is to expand, right? So they would have to go into it saying, okay, we've got X amount of desk space, X amount of places. We can now, if we're going to expand and grow naturally, which is the plan for all businesses, right? Or most of them, I'm assuming, is, hey, we probably are going to lock in for 5 to 10 years. It might be 5 to 8, I don't know. But they did a whole big remodel, and then it's like, oh, you got to go home right now. And we're like, celebrate good times, come on. It's just absolute insanity, man. So, sorry for my singing, but if I cut it in, then people would, YouTube would be like, get out of here. You're striked. Get out. So, to that end, it's just, oh, I can't even eat this evening. It's just so delicious, right? Like, I'm so full on shenanigans, because you're never going to be able to out-talk or out-think or whatever the stats and the reasons behind why working from home is just naturally better. It just is. Objectively.
Right.
Leave a comment below if you disagree, and then we'll have you come on and talk about that.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's wild. And we get to work from home, and I love it. But hopefully plans don't change, right? Hopefully they plan on doing that forever.
Oh, well, they're going to come with another variant, and try to keep everybody at home, shut down, masked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they can keep control. You know that.
Well,
so,
do you know what they're not doing?
What's that?
They're not sharing their plan.
Well, we know what their plan is.
No, I'm making that a segue into our next topic.
Oh, Oh, well, yeah. We know what the plan is.
I'll have to put in. We have to ride a Segway at some point in time. You need to see if they're down there in Ecuador, so we can make it as little. We're sitting on the
Yeah,
Segway.
I've never seen one. It might be some in
what, down here?
Guayaquil, but I've never seen any in Playas.
We gotta,
Yeah,
we gotta do that so we can have that as our. And here's a bad Segway, and we drive by.
somebody falls off of it,
right,
drives off the
exactly.
curb and falls over. Yeah.
Exactly. So that kind of leads me into the next topic, which shout out to work from home. But you were talking to me last week about. I don't think it was on the podcast. I think it was a little bit either beforehand or a different day last week. But you did something that is super cool in terms of sharing your goals, sharing your plans. But I don't think you or very many other people understand what that does psychologically. Okay? So the point here is don't tell people your plans or your goals, right? And a lot of folks would be like, that's ridiculous. Like, we want people to share in that and then have them help us or be accountability buddies or be this or that. Well, there's actually several reasons why you shouldn't do it. And I've got a few here, and we can talk through a few of them here in just a second. So reason number one is receiving, and this is my favorite, is you receive premature praise for a goal that makes you less likely to follow through. So there is something that happens in your brain, right, when you say, I'm going to start working out. The person you're telling that to, if they're not a total pizza, is they're going to say, oh, that's awesome. What do you plan on doing? You give them the plan. They're like, go you. That's fantastic. Good on you for coming up with that plan. I can't wait to see the results. What that does is that gives you a piece of the reward prematurely. It says, I got the praise already. Right. And the brain's like, whoop. And you go, oh, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all this. Like, I get the reward before you ever do anything. You never do it.
Makes sense.
It's wild, right? I the first time I heard that, I was like, okay, I can't tell anybody anything ever again. Just stay in the hole. Just never tell anybody anything, because what's going to happen is I'm going to realize it, right? I'm going to say, well, Dan, right. I plan on starting up a business and making a little extra scratch. And you'd be like, oh, that's great. Like, what's the idea? And then you like the idea and you say, yeah, cool. And then if you don't steal it, and then but you give me the praise for it, then I don't ever have to do it because I've already got the praise, right? Even if the money was an additional reward,
I might become a partner and then you're motivated.
Well, so the next reason is receiving person praise versus process praise. So that could reduce your motivation. So person praise is feedback relating to the individual. Process praise is feedback related to the method taken. And then there's no praise, which is no feedback. So there very well could be like, oh, I'm going to, praise, like, let's say I'm going to praise you because, hey, I like you as a person, and I'm going to praise the individual, and you're doing well, and I think it's a great idea, versus, oh, I've seen some results, or I like the method you're choosing, so let's praise that instead, right? So there's a different angle at coming at whatever goal that you have set there, which is kind of interesting. Who'd you tell your plans to? So, yeah. And then reason 3 is if you're a beginner, you could get negative feedback and that could stop you. So when positive feedback, when positive feedback signals commitment to a goal, it potentially increases motivation. Where positive feedback signals progress, it decreases motivation. So let's kind of break that down. So when you get positive feedback to commitment to the goal, it actually is like, hey, you actually got the praise already. Versus positive feedback might when it signals progress, it might actually decrease. So it's pretty interesting in terms of positive and negative feedback, and then when you get it and what that actually does for you. Then there's accountability, right? So you might say, hey, I'm going to give I'm going to tell somebody my goal because I want them to hold me accountable. Well, there have been studies that have shown that when a particular is being monitored by the experimenter whose intention was to control their behavior, either to make sure that they complied or to evaluate their performance, the participants' intrinsic motivation decreases, right? So they may even say, hey, let's just say in passing, you tell somebody that you're not particularly keen on your goal. And then, but they hear about it. Well, then they look in on you and see what's going on. Well, you're going to say, oh, I stopped that because I don't want them checking in on me, right? So that's another thing that's there. And also, so reason 5, the last one, is also about competition, right? So let's say that you're trying to work out. And then let's say, well, I'm going to work out too because screw you. I'm going to work out better. Well, you're like, well, he probably is. And then you stop, right? Because competition for a lot of folks, they don't want to compete in something that they're working towards. Right. They want to compete with themselves, I think, smartly, because you're trying to be better than your past self. You don't want to be better than somebody else, right? So
makes sense.
But yeah, it's something that, like when you told me you were going to work out and start doing this and that, I'm like, awesome. But you got the praise already.
Does it show?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Does it show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I might look like I've lost weight. That's false. I've actually just gotten larger shirts. So that's that's one way to
I went into the commissary to where the scales are, and I put the scale on the floor, and I stepped on it. It was in kilograms, and I said, "Oh no!"
Yes,
I did not even try to go from kilograms to pounds. I was afraid.
1 kilo is 2.20462 pounds. So, just
what's 25?
What, 25 kilos?
Kilograms.
55 pounds.
Oh, then it wasn't right.
Gotcha.
Maybe it said 225 kilos.
At that point,
damn!
Yeah, we would call you rotund, and I would start searching in your butt for a motorcycle that may have slipped up there. So,
damn.
Yeah, damn. So yeah, I'll have to cut in Fluffy.
The original 5 levels are big, healthy, husky, fluffy, and damn.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And to folks out there, tell goals to folks who you trust and will be good for the goal, right? Don't tell folks who in passing you're like, it's almost as though you can tell that you need to win. So you're going to tell somebody something, you're going to get the praise, you're going to get the dopamine hit or the endorphin rush.
Yeah.
And then be like, praise. And then you get what I heard in an actual business meeting. Like, I would have never thought I would have heard this in an actual office setting or on the phone with a client or something. We had a client who was on the phone with us and several other of my colleagues, and it was 3 women who were the clients, and then it was all guys, hilariously enough, just kind of random, who were the salesperson, the entry person, the manager, etc. And the client, or the potential client, I would say, we haven't got their business yet, but the potential client was like, we'll see if we get a warm and fuzzy. And I thought to myself, you understand that you're probably part of $1 million, probably in the tens of millions of dollar company. I'm in a business that's, mid-size level brokerage. Warm and fuzzy? Like, what? It flabbergasted me. I really didn't know what was happening. Now, I've heard warm and fuzzy before, like I've heard it on YouTube and stuff like that. But I was just so thrown off that luckily, I was muted, so I could just kind of just put my head up in the air and just expel, right? Because I just started laughing, man. There was absolutely no way that that was a thing. But if you're looking for warm and fuzzy, right, and you tell somebody your goals and they say, oh, that's great, super cool, good for you, or in the latest Bo Burnham special.
Well, Billy
cool.
Squier wrote a song called Stroke Me. So
All right.
look that up. Billy Squier. Stroke. The Stroke is what it's called.
So it just takes one? Is that the thing?
Yeah, Stroke.
It's kind of like when, the little kids ask the owl from the Tootsie Roll Pop, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? And it's like,
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
one, and he just eats it in 3 or whatever. I'm sure many parents weren't happy with their kids having shattered teeth. So that was
There you
one.
go.
But yeah, so the whole goals thing, it that's kind of a soapbox moment for me, where really trying to make sure folks out there, understand, hey, it's important that you take that very seriously, right? Because if not, there are so many great song references this episode, because it's like, you're fooling yourself, like Sticks and whatnot, because that's what would be happening, right? So it was just, I thought, pretty interesting. And of course, it may come off a little hoity-toity, but that's it is what it is.
Make the commitment, So
it's tough. I agree.
It is.
It's
It
very
is.
hard, and I've heard in the past, it is harder to rule over yourself than it is a city. Right?
Probably.
So
Yep.
think about it like this. When was the last time you told yourself, you and the audience, right? When was the last time you told yourself you were going to do something and it didn't happen? Right? Like, you made the plan, you drew it all out, or mentally drew it all out, and then it just never came to fruition. How often do we do that, right?
Every day.
Like, all the time, right?
Yeah, every day.
And it's something that it's hard. Like, it's hard ruling over, just yourself, trying to make sure you do, air quotes, the right thing or the best thing all the time. Right. I had a buddy last night kind of go off on a bit of a tirade about several different things, but he said it's just easy to do the right thing. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, because it's not a gray area. You just do the right thing. It's not. You don't have to. If you don't do the right thing,
Okay.
you're gonna have to backtrack. You're gonna have extra work to do it right the first time, and then you don't have to worry about it.
So then let me posit this to you then. Who decides what's right and what's wrong?
You.
Okay. Now, let's say I decide what is right and what's wrong to me. Well, what if you disagree?
That's just that. That's your. It. You can do you, and you do you, and I'll do me.
Okay. Well, what if me doing me is killing you?
It's not going to. I won't allow it.
Okay.
And don't
You'll
forget,
never see me coming.
You'll be down here in 6 days. So
Yeah, it's like
probably 5 days. So be careful.
no,
You be careful. yeah, that's
That's
exactly right.
But that's my point, right? Is let's say what's right and what's wrong. Well, okay, another great example is the trans woman going into the women's prison. They're right, in their reality, their correct choice is doing what they did.
No.
Well, at that point,
To
what?
two genders hadn't been a question for a long time. It ain't a question now.
Okay, but at this point,
There's no but. There's no but. There's no but.
in the men's prison, it's only but.
That's right.
But I say but hilariously enough, unironically. However, there is always a but, because so many of us are
Everybody's got one.
Huh?
Everybody's got one.
Yeah. Opinions are like, I don't like buttholes, that's for sure. People's right and wrong is very much potentially subjective.
Okay.
Right? Because, well, I mean, you can flop over if you want, and that's totally fine. But the point is, a lot of that's subjective, right? There's very minimal, I would say, in life that is just objectively right and objectively wrong. Because there are so many factors in life in general that circumstance is going to determine a lot of times whether or not an action is right or wrong. Would you agree?
Do you think it's right for the children to have masks on at school?
Is it right for children to wear masks in school? So, are you asking me, is it right for a child to take every precaution necessary to keep themselves and people or others around them safe? Is that what you're asking?
Do you think it's right if a child that can be called a murderer?
I think anybody can be called a murderer for several reasons. And the reason why I say that is, you know how it used to be the shtick, starving children in Africa would really like that that other half of the sandwich you didn't eat there, you little bastard. And it's like, okay, we'll send it to them. Like, but you're killing the kids by not eating the food. And it's like, all right. So to that end, you can call anybody anything for any reason, right? So that kind of it loses a little bit of its gumption when there's been things that have been so menial like that throughout the years. But should you call children murderers? I mean, really? Now, if that's a spat between children, right? Children are little assholes anyways. And they're going to do what they're going to mimic what they see. They're going to mimic what they hear. They're going to parrot everything. And it's a scenario that it's not something I would wish upon children, for them to have to deal with that sort of thing. Like, it was something that was kind of heartbreaking a little bit, is there was a kid, and of course this is purely provocateur to the nth degree, is when there was that recent shooting, I think at either a basketball game or a baseball game or some kind of a game. There was shots fired, right? And they asked a little kid, and they said, "Hey, were you scared?" And the little kid was like, "Well, we have, active shooter drills in school." Of course, he wasn't obviously this elegant like I am, And and they're like, "Yeah, we have this sort of a drill in school, so it wasn't anything new." And it's just like, everyone's like, that it's all heart-wrenching and stuff, because children, one of the things I loathe in this world, and I'm terrified of, is taking away a child's innocence, right? Because I want that child to be as innocent and have that innocence for as long as humanly possible. That's why I'm very fearful to interact with them, because I think to myself, I'm going to say something that's going to affect their life, like someone has me in the past, because you know me, I don't forget a whole lot. And it's a scenario that it's like, well, okay, thanks for saying that to me. I'm never going to forget it, and I'm going to change now. And it's like, whoa, that's tough. So when, a child of single digit age old, 8, 9, 10, whatever, 7, whatever, it's like, oh yeah, the shooter there, it didn't unnerve me in the slightest, because I'm used to that sort of thing,
Scary.
It's nuts. Like, it is nuts. And it is what it is. All right. Some people will say, let's take away all your guns because you won't have any school shootings, but look at the ramifications. Or, hey, wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. science is changing all the time on a lot of things. And I'm not sure if you watched all the way to the end of the last episode, like basically the very tail end, where the guy puts the mask on, and of course,
I saw it.
It's like sub-zero temperature, basically, and then you just see air just rushing out of the mask.
It looked like smoke was coming out of his ears.
Right. Yeah.
But it looked like,
like a cartoon or something like that. So it is what it is. People are going to do what they're going to do. You should send me the link to whatever it was that you played to me before the air, and I'll try to link it down below. Because, of course, that was interesting. However, understand this. And I should actually link the Vsauce episode to this as well, where it says coincidences or random happenstance oftentimes are coincidences and random happenstance. Like, you can put together so many things that, I mean, it would drive a conspiracy theorist mad, where they think, oh, wait, perfect example. And this is from the Vsauce episode. Lincoln and Kennedy both have like the same letters in their last name, the same number of them in their last name. Both shot, both President X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And like so many things you can tie together.
Right.
But it's just a coincidence. Like, doesn't matter. Right.
Right.
So they're like, take every bit of information you hear with a grain of salt and look into it. Look into it. So,
sir.
Yeah, that's been pretty wild. Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
I was going to say, with your camo, you almost just look like a floating head there. So, just kind of
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, so much for watching the Jay and Thomas podcast. Leave a like and a comment below. Make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss any of the action. If you
Smash that like button.
Yeah, smash the like smash. If you want to be on the podcast or have a topic that you would like for us to talk about, please leave a comment below. Or try to get in contact with me in the comment section, and I'll give you our email address and whatnot. And then we'll be good to go. So we'll see y'all later.
See you.